and what those percents are in terms of what I was putting or where my expenses were going for things like transportation, life, debt repayment, savings, etc. So I'm going to share that with you because I think it's interesting. As we get older, we make more money, and if we make the right choices and keep our expenses down, we can get to savings rates that are higher and higher. And you guys know that was my goal. I had to position myself for success in the future because you guys know I was a late in life saver. That's why I encourage you guys all the time to start saving and investing now while you're still young. You don't want to get to age 40 and say that you're starting then. I want you to wake up now and do it a lot earlier. Trust me, if I haven't proved so far on the channel the value of doing so, then I don't know. Hopefully I have shown you that it does make sense to start earlier. So, the power of percents was an episode I had on my Broke at 40 podcast. So, I want to go through and say, I'm going to start by saying what was my total income for 2020. It was $107,000. Now remember, I put in the matches on that number as well. My salary and bonus, I think, was 105, somewhere in there. But adding in the matches, it's 107 because what do? I subtract it out because that's free money your company gives you from matches, and so I want to show that in these numbers. And the 5 categories that we hear about in the budgeting community are housing, transportation, life, debt repayment if we have debt, and savings is number 5. Now, I want to give you some standard percents as far as traditionally what we hear as far as you shouldn't have your percents any higher than the numbers I'm going to give you right now, okay? So for things like housing, which could be your rent payment, mortgage payment, it could be taxes, association fees, and maintenance, that should be about 35% of your income, no more than 35% for housing. For transportation, like your car payment, gas, insurance, and repairs, should be no more than 15%. That's a 1, 5. The life category should be no more than 25%. That's things like fun, food, utilities, etc. Debt repayment, for those of you that have debt, would be somewhere around 15%, 1, 5%. And savings traditionally has been 10%. So things that you put into your online savings, your retirement accounts, including the company matches, about 10%. Now, I guess I would suggest that if you're really young, then you might want to stay within those numbers. If you add all those up, 35, 15, 25, 15, and 10, that equals 100. So hopefully you're within those numbers. But I want to share with you, because you guys know I was very dramatic in my goals because I was a late in life saver. So I said to myself, Evan, in order to get to $1 million, in order to get to a place where you feel like you can retire early, I knew that I had to have my percentages different than what I just shared with you. And so in 2020, the first category, of course, is housing. My housing allocation in 2020 was 8%. So I'm going to read off some of these numbers for you. That was about $6,611, which was a combination of several things. Property taxes, which was $550, insurance, $1,897, and my association fees were about $4,164 for a total of $661. That's 8% of $85,000. Let me back into this. Remember share with you just a minute ago that what you do is, remember I said I have 107 as salary bonus and matches. My taxes were approximately $24,000, so that leaves about $85,000 of income after tax. So that's where I'm getting these percents based on the $85,000. Okay. So just to recap, housing 8%, which is the numbers I just gave you. For transportation, only 2%. I had no car payment, so in 2020 I still had my Mazda 3. And so as far as my budget, that was only 2% for things like gas, car insurance, and maintenance. So that's about $1,520. Now my life category, which included again food, fun, and utilities, was a total of about $17,000, which represents 20% of the $85,000. So the breakdown are things like electric, $600, cell phone, $648, internet was $528, and I think that's about it, plus fun, $10,000. Yeah, and food, $5,200 for a total of $17,000. So that is 20%. Now, debt repayment, 0, because I have no debt. Savings, and this is where, again, this has taken me a long time to get to this number, but savings was $60,000 that I saved in 2020. Approximately 60 or 61,000. And that represents 70% of the 85,000 after tax income. So my percents then for those 5 categories: housing 8%, transportation 2, life 20, debt repayment 0, and savings 70%. Did those equal 100? I think they did. 8% plus 2% plus 20 plus 70. Yes, that equals 100%. So, by the way, I just wanted to share with you here real quick for savings, the 70%, that's 60,000. I have the breakdown if you're interested. That is 2,800 in my health savings account, 4,500 for a company match in my 401k, 26,000 of my money into the 401k, 7,000 into my Roth, 10,000 into my online savings account, and 9,500 into my Vanguard taxable account. Remember how I said in a previous episode that I used to take from my budget at the end of the year, if I had money left over after fun and other, I would put it as a lump sum into my Vanguard account, which consists of low-cost index funds that ride the market of the S&P 500. Let me add those numbers real quick. 2,800 plus 4,500 plus 26,000 plus 7,000 for the Roth, 10,000 online savings account, and 9,500 into my Vanguard taxable account. Yeah, equals right around $60,000 that I saved and invested in the year 2020. So I hope you found that interesting. I just wanted to show my budget for 2020. Now, to show you the money for 2020, my total income was approximately, again, the 105 or the 107 with the company matches. My end of year balance, remember, for 2019 was $805,000. So I ended 2019 with $805. I saved and invested $61,000 in 2020. My ending balance was $971,000. So that's why I say in the year 2020 is when I got to $1 million net worth. Now, remember, the numbers I'm giving you right now are the numbers in saving and investing, but when you consider net worth, my condo I paid off in 2019. So whatever the value of this condo was in 2019 and 2020, you would add to that so much